Across corporate America right now, there's a quiet contradiction playing out. Companies are under pressure to cut costs, protect margins, and operate more efficiently. At the same time, they can't afford to slow down, fall behind competitors, or sacrifice long-term growth. In 2026, that balance would be nearly impossible without one thing changing how decisions are made at scale. That thing is AI. US companies are using AI to cut costs without cutting growth. Not through flashy announcements or radical overhauls, but through dozens of small, practical changes that quietly reshape how work gets done. This isn't about replacing entire businesses or chasing hype. It's about removing friction from the system. The first place AI is reducing costs without harming growth is forecasting. Poor forecasts are expensive. They lead to overhiring, excess inventory, missed demand, and rushed corrections. Historically, companies relied on human judgment layered on top of lagging data. AI changes that completely. Modern AI systems ingest real-time sales data, customer behavior, pricing signals, and external indicators to produce more accurate, continuously updated forecasts. When companies know what demand actually looks like, they stop wasting money preparing for demand that never arrives. Better forecasts don't slow growth, they protect it. Inventory management is another major area. Excess inventory ties up cash, increases storage costs, and leads to discounting. Too little inventory means missed sales. AI helps companies strike that balance by predicting demand at a granular level and adjusting replenishment dynamically. This allows companies to reduce inventory costs while still meeting customer needs. Growth continues, but waste disappears. Pricing is another quiet lever. Many companies used to rely on static pricing models or periodic reviews. AI allows pricing to adjust based on demand elasticity, input costs, and competitive behavior in near real time. Instead of blanket discounts to drive volume, companies can protect margins while still capturing demand. That language is quietly disappearing. Across corporate America, cost cuts are no longer being treated as a pause. They are becoming permanent features of how businesses operate. This shift marks a fundamental change in corporate strategy. Cost discipline is no longer a defensive reaction to downturns. It is a structural choice shaped by how companies now view risk, growth, and long-term competitiveness. One of the main reasons cost cuts are becoming permanent is uncertainty. Even when economic indicators are positive, volatility remains high. Interest rates, labor markets, regulation, supply chains, and consumer behavior can all shift quickly. In this environment, companies have learned that rebuilding cost structures only to cut them again is disruptive and expensive. Permanently lower cost bases provide flexibility across a wider range of outcomes. Cost cuts also reflect a reassessment of what is truly essential. During periods of easy capital and strong growth, many organizations accumulated layers of spending that were never fully questioned. Extra management roles, overlapping systems, redundant vendors, and low-impact initiatives were tolerated because revenue growth covered inefficiencies. Recent pressure forced companies to examine these costs closely. In many cases, leaders discovered that operations continued to function well, or even better, without them. Technology has accelerated this realization. Automation, software platforms, and AI-driven tools allow companies to operate with fewer people and less overhead. Tasks that once required large teams can now be handled by smaller groups supported by technology. Once these efficiencies are achieved, there is little incentive to reverse them. Cost reductions enabled by technology tend to stick. Labor costs are a central part of this shift. Hiring freezes, layoffs, and role consolidation were initially framed as temporary. But companies are increasingly redesigning roles permanently. Instead of rebuilding headcount, they are redistributing work, increasing productivity expectations, and relying on tools to fill gaps. This creates leaner organizations that are structurally different from what existed before. Another driver of permanent cost cuts is the changing cost of capital. For years, cheap financing allowed companies to tolerate inefficiency. Higher interest rates have raised hurdle rates for investment and made cash flow more valuable. Lower fixed costs improve margins, reduce financing needs, and strengthen balance sheets. Once companies experience the benefits of a leaner structure, reverting to higher spending feels unjustified. Investor expectations reinforce this behavior. Markets are rewarding discipline, predictable earnings, and strong free cash flow. Companies that cut costs and maintain margins often see positive valuation responses. In contrast, firms that quickly rebuild expenses without clear returns are penalized. This creates strong incentives for management teams to lock in savings rather than treat them as temporary. There is also a psychological shift among executives. Leaders who navigated recent volatility have become more cautious. They are less willing to assume that favorable conditions will persist. Permanent cost reductions provide a margin of safety. They reduce stress on the organization and give leaders more confidence to navigate uncertainty. Cost cuts are also becoming permanent because growth itself looks different. Many industries face slower, more uneven expansion. Growth is no longer assumed to be broad or continuous. When revenue growth is less predictable, fixed costs become more dangerous. Companies respond by lowering break-even points and building structures that can remain profitable even with modest growth. This mindset changes how budgets are created. Instead of cutting costs temporarily and restoring them later, companies reset baseline spending. Future budgets are built from a lower starting point. Any increase must be justified rather than assumed. Over time, this creates a new normal that is structurally leaner. Supply chain strategies contribute to this trend as well. Companies are simplifying vendor relationships, reducing inventory excess, and renegotiating contracts. These changes are not easily reversed, nor are they intended to be. They reflect a desire for efficiency and resilience, rather than scale at any cost. The permanence of cost cuts also shows up in real estate decisions. Many companies have reduced office space, consolidated locations, or shifted to hybrid models. These moves lower long-term fixed costs and are often locked in through lease changes or asset sales. Returning to previous footprints would be costly and unnecessary. Importantly, permanent cost cuts do not necessarily mean underinvestment. Companies are still spending, but more selectively. Resources are redirected toward areas that clearly support strategy, such as core technology, critical talent, and customer-facing capabilities. Non-essential spending is removed permanently to make room for higher impact investment. There are risks to this approach. Excessive cost-cutting can strain employees, reduce innovation, and harm culture if not managed carefully. Companies that treat cost discipline as indiscriminate austerity risk long-term damage. However, many organizations view permanent cost cuts as an opportunity to operate more intentionally rather than simply cheaper. This shift also affects employees. Job security feels different in organizations where lean structures are permanent. Expectations around productivity and adaptability increase. At the same time, companies aim to create clearer priorities and reduce the chaos that often comes with bloated organizations.